I was never allowed to go into the woods behind our house. My dad always told me that there were caves that I could fall into and nobody would ever find me. I felt like a giant hole in the ground would be pretty easy to see, but I never did go into the woods. I tried once when I was a little girl. I think I was like 8 or 9. My dumbass set off the motion lights before I even got to the tree line. Dad came running out, more mad than I had ever seen him. He took his belt off and beat me all the way back to my room. I was too scared of him to try going back into the woods ever again. I'm 16 now. I mean, if I'm ever going to see what's out there, I might as well do it now. My mom is so scared to try new things. I don't want to get old like her and be too afraid to go out there. I decided I was going to go out there. After everyone was asleep, I snuck out. Last week, Dad was complaining about the light bulb for the motion light going out. I don't think he has fixed it yet. I will test it out before I run out in the middle of the backyard. I wouldn't be out long, just be like an hour or so. I only grabbed a flashlight, a compass, and my phone. If there were caves out there, I wanted to go inside and film them. They are probably small sinkholes, but maybe I can see something cool. If I did fall into a hole, I would have my phone. I could just call someone to get me. I waited until midnight to go out, make sure everyone was asleep. I was able to sneak out of the garage without making a sound. There is a window in the garage that doesn't have a screen. James hit a baseball through the window a few years ago, and they never finished fixing the window. They got as far as replacing the glass, and that was it. I thought to leave the window open in case I needed to get back in fast. My room is close to the garage, so I should be able to get back in before anybody notices that my room was empty. Earlier that day, I put a basketball on the side of the garage by the window. Once I went around the corner to the back of the house, the motion sensor could see me. I grabbed the ball and rolled it into the backyard. If the light was working, then the ball would trip it, and I would have time to crawl back through the window and be back in bed before anybody had a chance to get out of theirs. Nothing. It remained dark. I was good. So I took off towards the woods. I waited until I was far enough into the woods that I couldn't see the lights from my house before I turned on my flashlight. Everything around me was silent except the sound of crickets. I checked my compass. I needed to keep going east. The back of our house faced east, so I thought I would go in a straight line so it would be easy to turn around and come straight back out. Ever since I was a little girl, I have wanted to explore these woods. I wanted to build a fort back here and huge tree houses. I wanted several tree houses that I could swing between with a rope. I asked my dad all the time to build it for me, but he always lectured me about not going into the woods. It was so unfair. I could have had the coolest childhood ever, but I didn't get it because my dad was afraid I would fall into a hole. He is way too overprotective. I wasn't seeing anything out here except trees and rocks. The hills out here felt like mountains as I went up and down them. Even though I had a flashlight, I kept snagging my arms and legs on thorns. I kept thinking, how am I going to hide this in the morning when I have cuts all over me? My parents will know I have been in the woods. I'm going to have to go to school looking like the emo girl with scars all over her arm. What is everyone going to think of me? Screw it. Who cares? I will wear long sleeves for a week or so until they go away. I want to know what's in these woods. I'm not stopping now just because of a few scratches. I had been walking for about 20 minutes when I came to something cool. It was a wad of hair. It looked black and brown. Mostly black, but it was long, 3 or 4 inches long. It had been caught on a broken branch that was sticking out. It was almost as high as my shoulders, so whatever brushed against it was big, like really big. The only thing I could think of was a bear or an elk. Our neighbors saw a black bear in their yard a few years ago, but those things really aren't that big, like they would probably come up to my waist. And they don't have long hair like this. It had to be an elk. There aren't too many around here, I thought, but I think I heard one of my hunting friends from school talking about the conservation trying to populate the area with them. I stuck the glob of hair in my pocket. Maybe my friend could tell me where it was from. I walked for like 10 or 15 minutes, and I saw something weird hanging in a tree. It was metal, hanging from a branch, swaying with the limbs. As I got closer, I could see that it was a large bird cage. It was almost as tall as I was, but the bottom of it was hanging just a little higher than my head. It was black from how long it had been outside, but it still looked shiny when my light was on it. The cage was completely empty. I studied it, trying to figure out why there was a bird cage out here in the middle of nowhere. I grabbed onto it and tried to swing it. It moved, but the metal was so heavy it was hard to push. What type of bird would need such a heavy-duty cage? As I was inspecting it, I noticed the bottom of the cage had a really dark brown sticky layer on it. It wasn't dried sap from the tree, and I don't think it was bird poop or anything. After picking at it for a while with my fingernail, I realized that it was dried blood. I scanned the woods around me to see if there was anything, just trees as far as my light could reach, then black. Why would anybody leave birds in a cage like this to die? I'm not sure how far back my parents' land goes, but it should be far. I'm probably still on our land. Actually, I'm sure of it. We own about 800 acres. I wonder if my parents know that there is a huge bird cage out here? Maybe I should tell them about it. Well, no. Then they would know I was out here. I'm just going to keep going and see if I find anything else. Deeper into the woods I went. I wasn't as focused as I was on what was right in front of me. I scanned everything around me as I slowly walked farther. I didn't want to miss something else. It would be so easy to walk straight past something that was a couple of feet to my side. As I walked, I couldn't stop thinking about that cage. I turned around to look at it and noticed something else. It wasn't the only one. I had been so focused on going in a straight line that I hadn't noticed that there were a few other cages scattered around hanging from limbs. That doesn't make sense. I looked all around me when I was at the cage and I didn't see these. I went back to the first cage I saw and looked around again. I couldn't see the others. They were hidden behind trees. I went to each cage. I couldn't see the other cages when I went to each of them. Was this on purpose? Maybe whatever birds they were keeping in here were like betta fish and would get pissed off if they saw each other. All of the cages had blood in them. Some had more than others, but I definitely saw blood on all of them. It's kinda weird, but I didn't notice any bones. If they let these birds die in the cages, I figured there would be some bones in or under the cage, but the area was completely clear. Probably some coyotes or something drug off the remains. The bones should be somewhere. It doesn't really matter. I want to see what else is in these woods. Onward, eastward, I went. I felt a lot more excitement now. Before I saw the cages, I felt kinda nervous about falling into a hole, but now that I found something kinda cool, I was ready to explore a lot more. I hadn't gone very far when I found a trail. It wasn't fancy or anything, barely more than a deer trail, but it was definitely something that was taken a lot. I was able to move a lot more freely. Whatever has been using it cleared all the thorns. I don't know if it was some animal eating the brush or maybe somebody has been out here clearing it out. Either way, I was happy not to have 1,000 thorns in my legs. I was able to move quickly now that I was on the path. I went a long way over the next few minutes. I noticed something up ahead on the trail that looked freaky. It was a ring on the trail, but like huge. It looked like an archway, but a complete circle. It was still a ways away, but I was getting closer. When I got to it, I could see that it was a circle made of trees. The trees were braided into a ring that was large enough for someone to walk under without having to duck through. This is way cooler than a cave. Who made this? How did they do it? It looks like the trees would have broken if they did this. They must have been braiding them as they grew. Who has time for that? And why? Once I stepped through the circle, I couldn't believe what I saw. It was like a church. Pews were made out of logs. They were all set up facing a large pile of ashes. What was this? Did my parents know that a group of people were having church out here on our land? That large of a fire could get out of hand easily. They could have burned down all of our land. It could have gotten to our house. These selfish pricks could have ruined our lives with their creepy little book club. That's all I need for tonight. I found more than I thought I would. I wanted to get back to talk to my parents. I know I will get in trouble, but I need to tell them about these people who are coming out here. I took some pictures of the outdoor chapel and headed back down the trail. I looked at my compass and noticed that I hadn't been going east. I had been going northeast. I should have paid attention to that and marked where I got on the trail. I had no clue where I should have gotten off the trail. I would have to guess. Nothing looked familiar as I went back. Just a bunch of dark trees and brush. Why didn't I think about going back? If I head west, I might not hit our house perfectly, but I should at least get to the road that our house is on, then I can go down the road to our house. I walked a couple of minutes and left the trail going west. I knew I wasn't on the same path that I had taken in because I never saw cages. This made me slightly nervous because I knew that people come out here and they had cages and were making weird things with the trees. What if those cages weren't for birds? I needed to get back home as fast as possible. I started running. I couldn't go too fast because I was still trying to see where I was going. Tripping on a rock, breaking my leg, could be a death sentence, being this far into the woods without anybody knowing where I was. I was wrong about calling my parents. I could, but they wouldn't know where I was. Suddenly, the ground gave out, and I was falling. Shit. No! I landed at the bottom of the hole. I wasn't hurt. I fell onto a bunch of branches that must have fallen into the hole. As I lay on the ground, I tried to collect myself. This must be one of the caves. I didn't see it at all. I pointed my flashlight up and saw I fell through the brush. It was a trap. There were limbs put over the hole. I looked around the hole. I couldn't see much. I looked down at the branches that I had fallen on. They weren't branches. They were bones. I jumped up and tried to find a spot without bones. The floor was completely covered in them. I screamed out for help, but there was no way anybody could hear me. I silenced myself quickly, though. There was nobody around to hear me. If there were, it would be the people who made the trap. I pulled myself for a second. I scanned over the bones. None of them were human. They were smaller animals. It looked like dog bones, probably coyotes or foxes. There were a few larger skeletons as well. Maybe those were deer. At least it wasn't a trap for people. How the hell do I get out of this hole? I looked around to see if there was a way out. The hole was about 10 feet deep and 10 feet across. I tried to climb out, but getting a grip was impossible on the smooth rock. I couldn't find any dirt that I could dig out to make a way out. Something stopped me from finding a way out. Something was moving outside the hole. I was frozen as I listened. Something was walking around the hole. I turned off my flashlight and waited for it to pass. A sound pierced through me. It was like nothing I had ever heard, but I knew it came from whatever was walking around up there. I turned on my flashlight and pointed it where the sound came from. Large red eyes looked down at me. I could only see its head, but I knew it was the largest animal I had ever seen out here. It had long, black, shaggy hair and horns that curled back. I couldn't move. My mind was blank. Its gaze stole every bit of survival instinct out of me. I just waited for it to end me. With one swift movement, it jumped down into the hole and grabbed me with its mouth. With a powerful leap, I was flying through the air in its mouth. Its jaws were clamped around my waist. Once we landed on the ground, it put me down on the grass. It stepped back and studied me. Should I play dead? Fight it? Or run? My mind went into hyperspeed, and I jumped up and ran as fast as I could. I didn't look behind me. I just ran as fast as I could. At first, I didn't hear anything behind me, just the brush and limbs as I ran through them. I ran for a few minutes before I dared look behind me. I saw it. Like a werewolf jumping through the shadows, completely silent. I couldn't help myself. I had no control over my voice. I just started screaming. I saw light. It was our house. I screamed out for help. The sound behind me gets louder. I tried to look and see where it was, but it moved without being seen. I ran as fast as I could. I kept my eyes on the light as the glow got larger. I should be there soon. I kept screaming for help as I ran. I saw another light come on in the house. They heard me. I kept screaming for help. I turned around again and set it. It was jumping from tree to tree. It stayed invisible for the most part, but I could still see the shadow darting towards me. It was getting closer. I was close enough that I could see the outline of the house. The clearing from the yard was just ahead of me. Suddenly, the yard was lit up with the brightest light I had ever seen. It blinded me, but I kept running. As I reached the yard, I saw a silhouette running towards me. "Dad, help me!" He reached me and kept running past me. "Get in the house now!" He yelled at me as he passed. I did as he said. As I closed the door behind me, I turned to see my mom. She didn't say anything, but she had the saddest face I have ever seen. I went to the window and watched the backyard, waiting for my dad to come back out. I tried to calm my breathing so I could hear the creature, but I heard nothing. My mom was behind me, watching out the window too. "What was that thing? Did you know about it?" She didn't respond. She just stood motionless behind me, staring out into the dark woods. Oh, thank God. He emerges after a few minutes. He marched straight inside and to his room. As he passed by us, he only said one thing without looking at us. "We will never talk about this night."